On today's episode of The Franchise, Wednesday, February 8th, we have LeBron James officially breaking the NBA all-time regular season scoring record last night on Tuesday against the Thunder. Derek Carr meeting with the New Orleans Saints, Aaron Rodgers and his future NFL award picks, and then we have some potential breaking news in the NBA. The trade deadline is on Thursday. Before we get into the episode, as always, franchise available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We're going to start first with the potential breaking news in the NBA. The trade deadline is on Thursday, and with that, there's a lot of potential rumors and moves that could be happening over the next day and a half. And the news right now is the Lakers involved in a potential 3-team trade with the Timberwolves and the Utah Jazz. The Lakers have been looking to improve their roster for almost a year now, since they acquired Russell Westbrook from the Wizards a few off-seasons ago. Westbrook has never been a good fit with the Lakers. He has a massive contract, and he's really viewed as a negative asset at this point in his career around the league. So for the Lakers, first of all, Westbrook is an expiring contract at the end of the season, so he is more valuable right now than he was last year or 2 years ago, having multiple years left on his deal. But with that, the Lakers still have to tie first-round picks. They still have to likely attach first-round picks to trade Russell Westbrook and get assets back to the team. Sorry, I'm just looking at any updates. But the potential trade that's being talked about right now between these three teams, the Lakers, Timberwolves, and Jazz, has the Lakers acquiring potentially D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, and possibly Jared Vanderbilt. The Jazz would get Russell Westbrook and some picks, and the Timberwolves would get Mike Conley and some picks. And then one of the reports here is if Russell Westbrook is traded to the Utah Jazz, he will most likely be bought out. So let's talk about this trade real quick. The Lakers, if this trade does go through, I do think their roster improves if they get D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley. I mean, if Jared Vanderbilt's thrown into this trade as well, I think the Lakers roster has dramatically improved. You trade one guy in Russell Westbrook, who's this season coming off the bench is playing good basketball, but as a fit on the court with LeBron and Anthony Davis and the holes that the Lakers have does not help them at all. He's not a great three-point shooter. He needs the ball in his hands to be effective. You add a guy like D'Angelo Russell, who this season, 17 points per game, shooting great from the field and from the three-point line. Originally drafted by the Lakers, number 2 overall, way back when. Traded away when they drafted Lonzo Ball. So if D'Lo returns to the Lakers, he's on his expiring deal. I think it's going to be a decent fit out here. But I wasn't a big fan of this news at first, right? I'd rather have had Russell Westbrook than D'Lo straight up. But the additions of potentially Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt are the best pieces of this trade. Malik Beasley is putting up 14 points per game this year with Utah. Great three-point shooter. Can defend, can play the 2 or the 3. You can even play him at the point guard spot. He's going to really help the spacing out there for the Lakers. And same thing for Jared Vanderbilt if he is thrown into this trade. One report says he is. Another report says he's probably not in this trade. However, Vanderbilt putting up 8 points per game this season for Utah, plays great defense, able to play the 3, the 4, or the 5. For the Jazz, Westbrook and some picks. The Utah is just trying to acquire as many picks as possible, right? When they traded Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, they got 7 or 8 first-round picks, including pick swaps. So now if they trade away, or if they trade for Russell Westbrook, they're going to be getting some picks in return. And like I said, they're likely to buy out Russell Westbrook. Timberwolves getting Mike Conley, the fit there with D'Angelo Russell has been okay, but it hasn't been. The Timberwolves season has not been what you expect when you go out there and trade for Rudy Gobert. You have Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, and D'Angelo Russell. I think a few of those guys on that team, in particular, Cat and Carl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell, those guys are just they don't have that dog mentality in them to go out there and win a championship. But Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert and this team for the Timberwolves this season has been below expectations. They're 29-28, currently the 8th seed in the Western Conference. D'Angelo Russell, like I said, almost 18 points per game. If they ship him out and bring in Mike Conley, who's not been playing well this season, around 10 points, has another year left on his contract, Timberwolves would also be getting some picks in this trade. And they did trade all of their first-round picks to the Utah Jazz for Rudy Gobert in the offseason. So if this is the trade that the Lakers decide to do to get rid of Russell Westbrook, as well as their first-round picks in 2027 and 2029, I think it is a good move for the Lakers, and it does help improve their team. Their roster will be a lot better down the stretch, potentially making the playoffs, compared to just having Russell Westbrook. Now, if Russell Westbrook gets bought out, I would like to see him potentially re-sign with the Lakers, if possible, on a minimum deal. I mean, if he gets bought out, he's still going to be making his full contract. And then you can sign him, if you're the Lakers, to a vet minimum deal. And now your team looks like D'Angelo Russell, Troy Brown Jr., LeBron, AD, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, Russell Westbrook, Pat Bev, Dennis Schroeder. I think that team is a lot better and a lot deeper if they were able to re-sign Russell Westbrook when he gets bought out. But, I mean, would he even want to come back to the team that just got rid of him? And he hasn't had the greatest experience out here with the Lakers so far, in his time here. Well, that is the potential trade. We'll see if that actually ends up going through. Like I said, the trade deadline is tomorrow. A lot of potential moves can happen. Tomorrow's episode for Thursday will be coming out a little bit later, so we'll recap all of the trade deadline news. Potential Mo Bamba trade to the Celtics. Raptors are a team to keep an eye on. They could really either blow up their entire roster or make some big moves to improve their team, as they're really stuck in a purgatory right now. A lot of potential big moves that could happen. And we'll just have to wait and see until tomorrow. But also in the NBA, we have LeBron breaking the scoring record. Like I said yesterday in yesterday's podcast, I was talking about this game. I said LeBron, first of all, he's questionable to play in the game. He did end up playing in the game against the Thunder, scored more than 36 points to get the all-time record from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. What a great moment for him. Hits that fadeaway at the top of the key for the two-pointer. And that was just a moment for LeBron. An insane moment in the greatest career in the history of basketball. And like I said yesterday, the moment he hits that shot and has the most points in NBA history, he becomes the greatest player of all time. And it's not just because of the points record. What you look at LeBron's done throughout his entire career, 20-plus seasons of greatness and improved ability on the offensive, defensive, passing game, the mental game. LeBron has literally gotten better every single year he's played in his career. Multiple MVPs, championships, All-Stars, all of that. And now he has the most points scored in the history of the NBA. And for those people that want to say that the scoring record is just a longevity award, it doesn't mean anything. It means everything, because if you play more games, you're going to score more points. So LeBron has played LeBron has had extreme continued greatness. He's had the most longevity of any player in the league. He's 38 years old. He's played 20 plus seasons, almost averaging 30 points per game throughout his entire career. So obviously it is a longevity award. That just means LeBron has been longer than any other player in NBA history. And like I said, for me, he is the greatest player of all time in the game of basketball. He is the GOAT. So congratulations to LeBron. I was able to watch that last night, and that was pretty awesome. All right, moving on here to the NFL. Some quick points to hit. Derek Carr officially he's supposed to be meeting with the New Orleans Saints. The Raiders benched Derek Carr the last few weeks of the season, and the assumption was that he would no longer be a part of the team next season. and that seems to be the case. He said at the Pro Bowl that's probably why he's leaving the Raiders, and he's more than likely on his way out from Las Vegas, and he will be looking for a new team. The Saints were not a team I thought would be in on a guy like Derek Carr. I mentioned the Jets, the Buccaneers, the Giants potentially. I think they'll re-sign Daniel Jones. I didn't think that the New Orleans Saints would be a team interested in Derek Carr. I thought they would go the route of the draft. But Derek Carr on the Saints, I think, first of all, any team in that NFC South division can go out there and win the division if they just make the right moves this offseason. The Falcons, Panthers, Saints, and Buccaneers, all of those teams don't have a quarterback heading into the season. The Falcons, they have Marcus Mariota, and they also have Desmond Ridder. For the Panthers, I mean, Sam Darnold is really who they're rolling with right now. The Saints, they're not bringing back, I don't think they're bringing back Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton. And then the Buccaneers only have Kyle Trask on their roster right now. So all of these teams are looking for a quarterback. The Panthers, when you look at them, they have a great defense, right? So if they just improve the offense and get a good quarterback, they could be the best team in the division. The Falcons, last season, they were like they were almost in it. They almost won the division. Last season's record, they were 7-10. So, I mean, all of these teams were within one game of each other. You had 3 7-10 teams, and the Buccaneers were 8-9. The Saints have a great defense. They have Alvin Kamara, potentially Michael Thomas, although he might be on his way out. And then Tampa Bay, obviously, is probably the best situation right now with their weapons and their defense. If I'm Derek Carr, he's meeting with the Saints. That's probably the most likely team that would actually trade for him, as he's not met with any other team. So it's either likely he gets traded to the Saints or to another team that we haven't heard anything about, or he does get cut in the next few weeks, because he either has to get traded or cut by next Wednesday before his guaranteed contract kicks in for next season. So the Saints, they either trade for him and they pay him the $40 million guaranteed, or he gets cut. If he gets cut, I think the best situation for him is the Buccaneers or the Jets. If I'm Derek Carr, I go to one of those two teams. All right, if you go to Tampa, first of all, you're in the NFC. The NFC quarterback competition is Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, and really that's it. I mean, potentially Aaron Rodgers if he returns to the Packers. But the NFC and their quarterbacks are not to the level of the AFC. And if you're Derek Carr, you either go to Tampa Bay, and then the Jets, they have a championship caliber defense over there. I like Robert Saleh as their head coach, and they have some potential pieces on the offense that can take that Jets team to a wild card spot with the addition of Derek Carr. Aaron Rodgers, we mentioned yesterday some teams that he could potentially go to, as his future conversations has been heating up. Could he go to the Packers? Could he go to the Raiders, the Buccaneers, the Jets? Could he retire? What will Aaron Rodgers do in the offseason? Well, yesterday he said he's not close to his decision, but he's going to do a 4-day darkness retreat. And then after that, he will know what he wants to do, whether he wants to retire, return to the Packers, or play for another team next season. First of all, there's been a lot of controversy and trolling surrounding his 4-day darkness retreat. There's been some reported photos of what it looks like. It is basically a concrete tent of pitch black for 4 days. Aaron Rodgers in his past, I mean, he's done ayahuasca, done a lot of things to his mind to really apparently clear himself up and reshape him as a person. But like I said yesterday, I think Aaron Rodgers, he either retires, he either returns to the Packers, or he's on a different team next season, whether he wants to be on a new team or the Packers don't want him to return next season. Those are the three likely outcomes. I think he returns, and I think he's on a new team next season, and I think it's either the Raiders, the Buccaneers, or the Jets for Aaron Rodgers. All right, finally, the NFL awards, NFL honors are announced on Thursday, but like I said, a little bit earlier, tomorrow's pod will be a little bit later release. So I'm going to say my I'm going to give my predictions for these awards. These are who I would. There's two ways to do this. There's either who I think will win or who I would give the award to. I'm going to do who I would give the award to. And most of these are also who I think will win. I will say which ones I think will win and who I am picking when I get to them. But starting with the NFL MVP, your finalists are Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Jefferson. You can already scratch off Justin Jefferson off the list. He's a wide receiver. And the MVP is basically a quarterback award. I mean, the last guy who's not a quarterback to win the MVP was Adrian Peterson many years ago. Jalen Hurts would be in the conversation, but he did miss 2 games. So I think you can eliminate him. I think the easy MVP is Patrick Mahomes, right? He should be the unanimous NFL MVP. 5,250 yards. That's first in the NFL. 41 touchdowns, first in the NFL. 67 completion percentage. On the best offense in the league, the best team in the AFC, on the team that's in the Super Bowl, potentially winning a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, I think easily and unanimously should be the MVP for this past season. Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa, Chris Jones, and Micah Parsons are the finalists. I would give this award to Nick Bosa. 18.5 sacks this season, that's first in the NFL. 2 forced fumbles. He's on the best defense. A team that made it to the NFC Championship, and he's arguably the most important piece to that entire San Francisco 49ers defense, and in my opinion, the best pass rusher in the NFL. You go back into some clips from a few weeks, multiple months ago now. I said Micah Parsons is the best defensive player, best pass rusher in football, but then Nick Bosa really said, hold on one second, let me show you why I'm the greatest pass rusher in the NFL right now. And he really proved that this season, like I said, first in sacks, 2 forced fumbles, best defense in the league. Nick Bosa is my Defensive Player of the Year pick. Offensive Player of the Year, Mahomes, Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. This one's going to go to Justin Jefferson. This season, 128 receptions, first in the NFL. 1,809 yards, first in the NFL. 8 touchdowns. Arguably the best receiver in the NFL. I think he's top 2 or top 3 receivers in the NFL right now. Whether you want to put him 1, 2, or 3, I don't even know yet. I'd have to do some thinking. We'll release those rankings in a few weeks post Super Bowl. But Justin Jefferson easily had one of the greatest wide receiver seasons of all time, and he's one of, if not the best wide receiver in the game right now. He's the Offensive Player of the Year pick for me. Comeback Player of the Year. This one, I think Geno Smith will actually win the award. But if I had to pick, I would give it to Saquon. Comeback Player of the Year is supposed to be an award for a guy who was injured or out of the league or something previously in his career to this next season. He came back, faced adversity, and balled out. Now, Geno Smith, he wasn't injured last season. There was nothing for Geno last season that warrants him winning this award. If there was a most improved player award, Geno Smith should have won that, right? A backup for his entire career, never been looked at as a great quarterback, and had a great season for Seattle this past season. Pro Bowler, led them to the playoffs. Gonna re-sign with Seattle and get a nice contract extension. But for the terms of the Comeback Player of the Year award, Saquon Barkley, coming off a torn ACL a few seasons ago, 295 rushing attempts, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4.4 yards per carry, on a Giants team that flipped the script from last season to this year, made the playoffs, and was the most important piece to that offense and why they had success this past season. Coach of the Year is, the finalists are Brian Daboll, Doug Peterson, Kyle Shanahan. It's going to Daboll from the Giants. I mean, like I just said, last season the Giants were one of the worst teams in the league. This season they went 9-7-1, made it to the playoffs, won a playoff game against the Minnesota Vikings. They take on the Eagles. They obviously get blown out by Philadelphia in the divisional round. But for what they were able to do this season, flipping the script, turning them into one of the best offenses in the league, improving that defense, showing that Daniel Jones could actually be a franchise quarterback, Saquon Barkley, the whole offense and the whole team got better with him calling plays and being the head coach for the Giants. So he's easily Coach of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year, you got Brock Purdy, Kenneth Walker, and Garrett Wilson. Brock Purdy played great. I just don't think he played enough regular season time to win the award. I'm going to give it to Kenneth Walker from Seattle Seahawks, the running back. 228 rushing attempts, 1,050 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4.6 yards per carry. One of the most important pieces on that offense. Really established Seattle Seahawks running game this season. And then finally, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Sauce Gardner, Aiden Hutchinson, and Tariq Woolen. This is easily Sauce Gardner. He's arguably the best cornerback in the league after just one season in the NFL. 2 interceptions last season, 20 passes deflected. That's first in the NFL. He allowed 16 yards per game this season. I went through, looked at every receiver he faced. The most yards he allowed this season to a single receiver was 150. That was to Drake London. But he has multiple games where he's allowing less than 10, 15 yards a game. Only allowed 4 touchdowns on the season against receivers he was guarding. He's absolutely locked down. An absolutely lockdown corner, arguably the best in the NFL after just one season in the league. He is my Defensive Rookie of the Year. So we'll see how these go out. We'll talk about these tomorrow on the episode, on the pod once they are released. We'll also go over tomorrow. We'll probably trying to talk some UFC. All right, we're gonna try and talk some UFC, big fight this weekend, and then Friday's episode will be the big Super Bowl preview. Gonna have a lot of stuff to go over, game picks, MVP picks, prop bets, just a lot of things. Super Bowl will be on Friday's podcast, but this episode of the franchise here on Wednesday, that's gonna be a wrap for this one. We'll see you guys back tomorrow with another episode. Like, share, subscribe, follow the pod on all platforms. Notifications on, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.